Thank you. So today we're going to be in Acts 12. And this is talking about Peter's escape from prison and focusing on prayer. Acts 12:1. It was about this time that King Herod arrested some who belonged to the church, intending to persecute them. He had James, the brother of John, put to death with the sword. When he saw that this met with approval among the Jews, he proceeded to seize Peter also. This happened during the festival of unleavened bread. After arresting him, he put him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. Herod intended to bring him out for public trial after the Passover. So Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. So I'm going to stop right there. Acts 12, first part of it. So I thought it was interesting that Herod, when he found out that what he had done met with the approval of the Jews, decided, I'm going to do more. That's kind of like how we are a lot of times. Oh, look, everybody likes what I'm doing. I think even though it's not right, I'll keep doing it. So, and this happened during the festival of unleavened bread, which follows Passover. If I understand correctly, and I might look to my Jewish people, Passover is a one-day thing. Is that right? And then the unleavened bread comes right after that. Is that right? Okay. So it's right at that time. Jesus was killed at the time of Passover, if you remember. So this is at least a year after that, probably more. Peter was in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for them. So when I thought about prayer, 2 people popped up into my head. Actually, 3 people popped up into my head with their prayers. And the first one was Daniel. Sometimes I think we think that maybe God's not listening to us. That it takes like 10 times before he hears us or whatever. But in Daniel 10:12, he had been praying for 3 weeks and nothing. And then he had a visitor. It was an angel. And he said to Daniel, "Do not be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. But the prince of the Persian king resisted me 21 days. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, because I was detained there with the king of Persia. Now I have come to explain to you what will happen to your people in the future, for the vision concerns a time yet to come." So he's telling Daniel that God heard your prayer the first day. And I tried to come and answer your prayer, but I was stopped by the king of Persia, which is Satan, one of his minions. And Michael was the only one that came to help him. Michael, from what I understand, is supposed to be like the angel that protects Israel. So, yes, he is for Israel. So, he actually had heard his prayer and was going to come and answer it, but there was a war taking place in the spiritual realm that we don't see. And that happens every day. And it happens here in this church. There are things that happen to us, and I've thought about this in my own personal life here lately. It seems like in my physical life, I get something fixed and then something else goes wrong. And I'm like sometimes thinking, God, what are you doing? I mean, why are you picking on me? And I realize that sometimes He lets us go through stuff to strengthen us and make us more dependent on Him. And as a result of that, I always get closer to Him when I'm going through something, because I realize I can't do this on my own. This is not something that I can handle. And I have to turn to Him and rely on Him. And I think we need to pray more. I think we don't respect the power of prayer like we should. So let's kind of flip over to 2 Corinthians 12. Somebody want to read that? 12, 7 through 10. I haven't even found it yet. So. 2 Corinthians 12, 7 through 10.
And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me, and he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmity, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong.
So sometimes things happen to us because so God can show off, basically. So in my weakness, God is made glorified because of His strength, because I can't do stuff in my own strength. It's another good reason why we go through stuff. I was listening to, I think it was Stephen Furtick the other day, and he was talking about Paul and his thorn that he had. And one thing he said I wrote down because I thought it was really good and it pertained to me. It was a message for me. But I'm going to share it with you guys. How do the people with greatness inside them and the greatest gifts stay grounded? The answer is thorns. These are messages from God delivered by Satan. So he's using Satan to deliver his message. I thought that was pretty cool. God's still in control, regardless of what goes on. Nothing happens that He does not approve of. And Paul even said, my grace is sufficient for you.
I think part of it is our perspective too, because we look at things from a human world perspective, and that's not God's perspective. Like, when Lazarus died and all those people were mourning and everything, and, to them nothing could be worse. But Jesus said, we have to wait 4 days till I chose death because this will help some of you believe. Mm-hmm. So, to him, a human death on earth is the horrible thing he can face.
Because to a Christian, death is only the beginning.
Well, I was talking to one of our maid who worked in my office, and he was friends with Dad. They were talking about Bible all the time. He's an accountant. I work with a lot of accountants. I don't know the accountants, but anyway. I said, I can explain to you the comfort that I find in this loss in terms I think you'll really get. As an accountant, I'm sure that you tell people in their youth when, that it's a good time to save and invest because you can think long term. I said, but the people who are the worst at saving and thinking long term are you. So the younger you are, the less inclined you are to think about the future and put aside, finances for the future. You're not thinking about that when you're young. You're going forever. You won't think about it. But any accountant will tell you it is better to save a small amount when you are young and keep saving a small amount than to put tremendously large amounts into savings when you're older. Because you're never going to catch up those years of investment, no matter how much you put into it. You just can't do it. And he said, you got to think long term. You got to think long term. You got to think long term. I said, we don't think long term. We think I just have to have a successful life from now to of course, it could be 1 year, but we think of it, as 60, 70, 80, 90 years that I'm on this planet. I have to have a successful life. I am building to that future, to that end. And God says 1,000 years is as a day. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, invest. Make the choices. Choose me while you can, while you are young, and while you can invest in eternity. Mm-hmm. Because if you make choices that are blessing in eternity, you're going to have that forever. You can never catch it up once this life is over. But while you are young, while you have the chance to choose me now. It will be a blessing in eternity. And these years are so fleeting and so short. So we need to invest in God, trusting in Him. Every trial that He brings us through is a preparation for a valley. Another valley. And if you can just put in the investment, give your time, your resources, your obedience, your heart into God, you will have something to draw from when you're hurting and when you're in pain.
If while I'm standing back here, I saw what was going to happen up here, I'd probably run away. But God doesn't take us from here to here. He takes us all the way through it. And that's what you were talking about. Every trial that we get prepares us for another valley. That's why. I don't want some of the stuff that if I knew when I was 20 what my life would be like now.
Erin wouldn't be here today.
It is by the grace of God that she is alive today. I tell her that all the time. Erin was a trying child, I'll just say that. But look, now she's a good kid most of the time.
She did a trial. Only because I like her face.
What I'm saying was that you have to do it fully. You can't do it part-time because as Kevin says, he's not as Jesus.
I love that term. Thanks, Kevin. Drive through Jesus. Or there's not an Aldi's brand of Jesus. Like that one too. See, we do listen. Another person I thought of when I thought about prayer was Jesus in the garden. So let's go to Matthew 26:36 through 46.
Matthew what?
26.
36?
Yeah.
46?
It's a section on Gethsemane.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
36? Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called
Gethsemane.
And he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Couldn't you men watch with me for an hour?" He asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping, because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to his disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let's go. Here comes my betrayer."
So, Jesus knew what was coming up, knew what kind of death he was going to die. And he didn't want to do it because it was going to hurt a lot. And so he prayed, if it's possible, take this away from me so I don't have to do it. But then he said, "Nevertheless, your will, not mine." And he did this 3 times. Like Paul prayed 3 times for the removal of his thorn. And like Daniel kept praying for 3 weeks. Even Jesus prayed and prayed and prayed over this.
What's neat about that is when we study the Word of God, when we study prayer, I think we have a tendency to forget the aspect of growing in prayer life. Because we start off, we just pray. Sometimes we just read God a laundry list, we just talk to Him. That's great. That's what God wants. And as we grow in learning what God wants in prayer, we study the scriptures and how did Jesus pray, and what did He say to His disciples, how did He teach them to pray. We learn more about prayer. We start to understand that prayer is not just about talking to Jesus, but it's about God changing us while we're on our knees. But the other aspect of that I think we don't realize is that we get to a point sometimes where we really struggle in prayer. And we kind of get this as it's a moment of, I'm just not sure if I'm getting the results, and I'm not sure if I'm doing it right, and things like that. We have these feelings and stuff. And we need to understand that the struggling is where you're really becoming accomplished in the discipleship of prayer, because Jesus struggled in prayer. It's about saying, this is what I want, this is my will, but nevertheless, not my will. Your will is best, God, and I trust you. And we don't understand that is where the transformation happens. That's where the power happens. It was in that moment in Gethsemane where Jesus said, "Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done," and He won the world. He won us all. He saved us all right there. And if we want to be useful for God, we have to get to that point. So we have to struggle in prayer too. So if you're having those moments where, you're doubting and you're having fears and you're thinking, is this even working? Am I doing the right thing? It's not because you've moved backward in your prayer life. It's because you're getting more like Jesus. And you just have to trust that when God says yes, and you surrender to that, it's going to be okay. And you have to remember, bear in mind what Jesus went through, he went through. And after Jesus said, okay, God, I'm going to do your will, you're in charge, God turned his back on him. There was a moment of silence with God. Just because we pray, and we don't get the result we may want, and sometimes we feel like, well, God is silent. God is not silent. He is just not revealing. He's not talking to you right now. It's not because you did anything wrong. It's not because you disobeyed. It's because he's doing something powerful. And eventually, you'll see it.
And he answers, or he hears immediately. Not answering immediately usually is because he's preparing you or somebody else. Preparing a situation for you to go into. There's work being done somewhere. We just can't see it.
I don't really agree with that because I don't think that God doesn't answer prayers. I think he answers it in 3 different ways.
No, I mean, it's not that he doesn't answer it right away. That's what I meant.
He doesn't put his plan into action right away.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, doing the preparation, that's part of the answer.
Yeah, but we don't always see it.
Right, we don't see it, but that is part of the answer, is preparation, and that might take years.
Sometimes I can look at a situation and not understand what's going on, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, I get it. Because I'll see him working in somebody else's life, and I'll be like, yeah, I see what he's doing over there.
Well, that's what I meant. Like, he answers in three ways. 1, no. 2, yes. And 3, you're not ready.
So, let me see. I need to go back to Acts, I guess. And find out where we're at. I thought it was interesting, too. It's in verse 4. It says, after arresting him, he put him in prison, handing him over to be guarded by 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. That's 16 guys. 16. Let's see, these would not have been, well, maybe. Roman soldiers is what I'm thinking. Herod was the Jewish king, so I'm not sure if he had Roman soldiers or not. But these were 16 guys that were put in charge of keeping track of Peter.
Who wasn't the quickest runner in the world?
Exactly, because, and how do we know that?
John beat him to the tomb.
John beat him to the tomb. He went past him, because Peter left first, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't I remember reading that? Peter left first and he got past.
And what it was neat about Peter, though, is, here's what I like about Peter. He was a slow runner, or he's slower than John. John starts lap after, runs faster, gets to the tomb, and just stands there.
And stops.
And Peter just blows past him, right on inside. You gotta love that about Peter.
Yep.
Jumps right on out of the boat, just plows into the tomb.
That is a cool thing about Peter. He doesn't, and I call Aaron my Peter, because Peter is so impetuous that he doesn't stop to think, what is going to happen if I do this? He just does it. And that's how he gets out of the boat. And that's how he goes right into the tomb. It's just, that's Peter. And that's Aaron. So Aaron has this thing where she says no filter on her mouth, and that's so very true. But one of the good things about Aaron is you always know where you stand with Aaron, because she doesn't pull any punches. And
Why Linda and I know also.
yeah, Linda is the same way. Linda is her little twin. And I think Peter's that way too. Okay. So Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying for him. So starting in verse 6, the night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was sleeping between two soldiers, bound with two chains, and sentries stood guard at the entrance. Remember, there's 16 guys here. Suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and a light shone in the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. "Quick, get up," he said, and the chains fell off Peter's wrists. The chains didn't fall off his wrist till he got up to move, by the way. I thought that was cool.
Martin always liked to point out that it's pretty cool that with all this going on and as scared as being guarded by 16 dudes and everything is, Peter just sleeping.
Peter was sleeping, yeah.
No problem. Just, you know.
Are you supposed to
How much had Peter matured? Because remember when Jesus was sleeping in the boat and they're all waking him up saying, "What's your problem? We're going to die." And Jesus is like, "Hey, you got the Son of God in your boat with you. Chill out, guys." So Peter pretty much matured a lot there. He was okay with it.
That's the thing about being the kind of person that takes those risks and is all in and just you jump out of the boat, and sometimes you fall in the water, but you learn to look at Jesus, and he did.
Mm.
He was jump first, follow Jesus, and yep, I wasn't ready, I fell, but I'll get back up, and he's farther along.
But even when he sank, what was it he did?
Call out to Jesus.
Yeah. He knew where to go.
Yeah.
I lost my spot.
Verse 8.
Then the angel said to him, "Put on your clothes and your sandals." And Peter did so. "Wrap your cloak around you and follow me," the angel told him. I'm going to stop there because when I read this, it was kind of a weird comparison that popped into my head. Because, God tells me stuff like that. Go to Exodus chapter 3. Verses 1 through 6. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within the bush. Moses saw that the bush was on fire. It did not burn up. So Moses thought, "I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up." When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, "Moses, Moses." And Moses said, "Here I am." "Do not come any closer," God said. "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground." Then he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. So, in Exodus, the angel of God is telling Moses, "Take off your shoes because where you're at is sacred ground." But in Acts, I don't have that. But in Acts, Peter was being told, Put on your shoes, put on your cloak, let's go. I thought that was kind of interesting. And if you look, Peter was being told this by an angel. And it just says angel. But if you look in Exodus, it says the angel of God. And obviously in Exodus, the angel of God is holy and is introducing himself to Moses as the God of his fathers. The angel of God, and you'll see this several times in the Bible. There's a difference between the angel of God and the angel. So the angel of God is the pre-incarnate Christ. That's the difference between taking your shoes off and putting your shoes on. And showing respect and there you go. That's what I got.
Yeah, Dad always say, you watch for that. It might say, it depends on your version, it might say of the Lord, angel of the Lord, or angel of God. But he said that's the difference, because you'll notice, like, a lot of times, people, they see angels, they bow down, and angels said, don't bow to me, because it's an angel, it's a messenger. But that was just the way that they were expressing that it was a pre-incarnate Christ. It is part of the Godhead. It's not just a messenger, a created being.
Well, because angel means messenger.
Right.
So.
And there are lots of names for Christ before, other than Messiah and things like that, like the arm of the Lord. And you get to watch, anytime you see those key phrases in the Old Testament, when Satan talks about his right hand, the arm of the Lord, the angel of the Lord, that's Jesus working before he was born of a virgin. That's really cool.
Well, because in John it talks about Jesus at the first there in chapter 1. He was the Word, and he was here before the world was created. So, let me go back to Acts. That's the next part. I feel so sorry for poor little Rhoda.
She's so cool.
Rhoda is
cool.
Human because let's see.
I feel like I wish I would be like Rhoda, because I have one thing in common with Rhoda. Like, I don't know that I have the faith to just hear his voice and say, it's him, he's here, and not. But I think I'd probably be mindless enough to or leave him standing out there.
That's what I like about Rhoda. She's so human. She just leaves him standing there. Poor Peter's knocking on the door saying, let me in. 16 guards, don't forget. They wanted this guy dead. And he's walking around the streets of the city, knocking on a door, and Rhoda's so excited that he's there, she just leaves him there. And then everybody tells her that she's crazy. And that's what my version says. Let me find it. Okay. Peter had been walked out by the angel, and then the angel disappeared. So I'm going to start at 12. When this had dawned on him, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John, also called Mark, where many people had gathered and were praying. And they're praying for Peter to be released. Don't forget that. Peter knocked at the outer entrance, and a servant named Rhoda came to answer the door. When she recognized Peter's voice, she was so overjoyed. She ran back without opening it and exclaimed, Peter is at the door. Quote, this is what it says, you're out of your mind, they told her. When she kept insisting that it was so, they said it must be his angel. But Peter kept on knocking, and when they opened the door and saw him, they were astonished. Peter motioned with his hand for them to be quiet and described how the Lord had brought him out of prison. But here these people are earnestly praying. Isn't that what it said earlier? Earnestly praying? Yeah, earnestly praying in verse 5.
What's fun with this, if you teach children, you really see the difference between the faith of a child and the faith of adults. Because when you tell children this story, they say, why in the world why were they surprised? You know? They were praying for him to get out. Why didn't they believe he got out? You know, they're just, every single time I've ever taught it, and at this age it's been several, every single time the one thing that the kids are like, well, yeah, they prayed for him to get out. Why were they shocked that he got out?
Duh.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, because us small people aren't as stressed as you are. We should learn from you.
I think we pray for stuff, but sometimes we don't really believe that God can and will do what we ask for.
Ern's dad used to say, don't pray for rain unless you got your umbrella.
Yeah, I like that.
Dad's favorite prayer in the Bible was blind Bartimaeus. He said, we need to all be like blind Bartimaeus, because he was screaming and shouting for Jesus, and they were like, he's like, no, this guy can and will help me. And you knew he knew he was talking what he was talking about, because he called him, thou son of David, have mercy on me. He identified him as the Messiah. Mm-hmm. He's really cool, and it has the best phrase for prayer in the Bible, just the way God wrote it. He writes everything perfect. It says, and Jesus stood still. You know, he's walking along, and Jesus stood still. We don't think there's power in prayer. People are like, well, I'll pray, and then they're like, well, thanks a lot, you know. And Jesus stood still. Prayer arrests the attention of God. It stops God and has him turn and listen. Who has the power to do that? Just us, his chosen people. I mean, that's awesome.
And I can't remember where I read it, but unbelievers don't have the promise that God is going to listen to their prayer. But we do. That's pretty cool. We got just a couple minutes. I want to skip on down to Herod's death. Because every time I read this, it reminds me of, well, let's read it and find out. Then Herod went from Judea to Caesarea and stayed there. He had been quarreling with the people of Tyre and Sidon. They now joined together and sought an audience with him. After securing the support of Blastus, a trusted personal servant of the king, they asked for peace because they depended on the king's country for their food supply. On the appointed day, Herod, wearing his royal robe, sat on his throne and delivered a public address to the people. They shouted, "This is the voice of a God, not of a man." Immediately, because Herod did not give praise to God, an angel of the Lord struck him down, and he was eaten by worms and died. Okay. Every time I read this, I'm going to pull out my politics here a little bit, but every time I read this, I think of, probably 7 years ago, after Obama was elected and they were calling him the Messiah. That irritated me. And it was the media that was doing it. And, as much as that irritated me, what irritated me even more was that he didn't stand up and say, "No, I'm not." And I kind of have waited for 8 years for him to be eaten by worms, but it's not happened yet, so.
Well, it was a lot of years before Pharaoh was risen.
It still irritates me, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you're being equated to God. Who do you think you are? And you don't stand up and, I would have. I would have been fearful not to. But that's me. So, any other thoughts, comments, questions?
Well, I like that verse right after that. Let the word of God continue to spread and flourish, in spite of people calling him a liar. And all the efforts to stop it.
Yeah.
It's nothing people can do to stop it.
It is powerful. So let's end with a short prayer and get on to church. Father God, we thank you for allowing us to all be here today. Thank you for your words and your guidance that you've given us. I ask that you would be with Kevin and give him the words to say, be with us, and give us the hearts to receive. In your holy name, amen.